DIYers, doesn't it seem like every single year something similar to this happens? A rapper that was well known some years ago reappears, or at least reappears on a mainstream level by going viral because they're working a 9 to 5. As if that's something to be embarrassed about. Well, thanks to Brian Z, we get down to the actual story that has been circulating around this viral clip of ILoveMakonnen, who XXL says, inaccurately, officially retired from music in 2024, now reveals he's working in a kitchen and even offering his services as a guest chef. His last album, Summer 22, dropped exactly 3 years ago tomorrow. Well, that got debunked by Brian Z. He said he has released 4 projects since summer 2022. Summer 22. Do you use the same internet we do? Nah, they too busy with their freshmen. With that said, though, here's a clip that went viral, and then we're going to get into some more explanation about what exactly is going down, because I think it's a really, really dope story that involves community and the power of using your platform for positive. Check it out.
I'm literally at work type shit. Look at all these people out here. They hungry and shit, you know? I'm in here working and getting this money. You know what I'm saying? If you need me to come guest chef at your motherfucking spot, holla at me. Let me know what city I'm coming through, cooking up. We got the smash burgers going off tonight, you know? I'm tired already though, but you know, I love cooking for the people. So if y'all need me to pull up, let me know where. Tag your establishment. You need a guest cook come through.
Now, you may remember him if you are still struggling to remember the name ILoveMakonnen from I Got the Club Going Up on a Tuesday. Got your girl and she chooses club going up. And that song obviously did really, really well for him. And, you know, he was involved in some controversies. That's none of my business. I don't want to hear none of it. I don't even want to talk about it. I want to zero in on this story because before we even get to an explanation, I think it is embarrassing, you know, and I know that this is not a statement or an accusation on all of hip hop, but I do think there's a segment of the audience, usually a younger segment of the audience, that loves to shame human beings that do human things. How dare someone who once was extremely popular get a 9 to 5 to support their livelihood and so much more that is below the surface? How dare them? How dare them? You know, I've seen this happen to former actors, and it's always unfortunate because these are human beings that still have responsibilities, whether you choose to stream their music or not, whatever the case may be. Brian Z reached out to him, and he said he got a quote from him that said, "I'm not embarrassed. I'm just surviving like every human has to." That's what ILoveMakonnen told Brian Z when I asked him about the viral video of him in a restaurant kitchen. Everyone shared the clip, but nobody reached out to hear the story behind it until I did. And I want to make sure I amplify this because this is what being a DIYer is all about. We do what is necessary, no matter how embarrassing it may look to the general public, because they ain't none of our business. They ain't got to deal with our bills. Anyways, continuing on in this thread, Brian Z says earlier this month, a fire devastated Portland's Burn Money Studios, a hub for local artists where Makonnen worked, stored merch, and created art. His kitchen shift was part of a fundraiser to help his community rebuild what they lost. Shout out to him.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
I imagine whatever conversation happened before that video, there was someone who might have brought up the possibility of the internet trying to embarrass him because of the optics on him. Being inside of a kitchen and, you know, talking about something outside of what people got to know him through, which is music, you know, may look like, oh my God, how he's fallen off. It's just unfortunate that you know, that there are people who don't even care about, you know, what may have happened. But as you see here, he had a studio that was supporting. It was a hub for local artists, and unfortunately, a fire took that out.
We're fucked, dude. But
Man, But, instead of doing what a lot of people do on the internet and pointing blame and trying to, get sympathy, he went to work. He's showing another photo here. He went to work to try to switch this around. And anybody who knows about the amount of money that it requires to be put into a studio, right, for just the acoustics alone, you understand how devastating that can be. Now imagine your merchandise is there. Now imagine, not only your music is sitting on these hard drives, I'm assuming that might have been burnt up, but the music of the community that you're serving, that has paid you. It is unfortunate. But continuing on, it says, but when the video went viral of him in a restaurant, the internet rushed to judgment. Oh, you know how the internet does that. Blogs ran with headlines about a quote unquote fallen rapper. He says, why are you shaming me for helping myself? Great question. Makonnen told Brian Z by phone from his home in Portland, where he spent the last 9 years. So he's been someone that has been in a community. That's a crazy t-shirt, but shout out to him. I'm gonna skip right over that. When the clip went viral, some even dragged Canadian Light Bright into it, as if every chapter of Makonnen's life must be explained through their brief working relationship. People always tie my story back to Canadian Light Bright, but I haven't had a relationship with him since 2015. So there's that. Makonnen is not working full-time in the food services business. He's actually been quietly releasing new music for the past few years, fulfilling contractual obligations tied to a decade-old co-publishing deal. I'd love to keep making art, but the business side, I want out. And I don't follow his posts, so maybe he has said something before, but I was not aware of this. But it is commendable to me to see someone who is still trying to fulfill their contract duties, even though obviously the mainstream attention has shifted elsewhere. You can see that reflected in how bad some of these platforms are covering his story, how inaccurately they're covering his story, to the point where they won't even acknowledge that he's put out other music since. But he's not only taking care of that business that he does not like, that business side, but he's also doing something in the meanwhile that leverages his platform in order to help artists in the Portland area. See, these are the stories. This is the stuff that I'm glad we have the Brian Z's of the world to cover, because otherwise people would laugh and then keep it moving. It goes on to say, Makonnen says, I never chased a recording career. Makonnen, now 36, says, music was a way out. But once I saw the politics, the egos, and the fake shit, I knew this wasn't for me. Respectfully, I want to remove myself. I get it. Makonnen describes the music industry as a place where support evaporates the second you're not hot. There's no big bros or big sisters checking in, no management, no booking agent. Everyone's turned their back. That is a harsh lesson many artists get to know, in that these folks is not your friends. Say what you want about 50, but 50 was not lying when he said these industry niggas not friends. They know how to pretend. I've been patiently waiting. That is someone who obviously was told by others or even knew coming in what this was. But it's interesting to see how many people rush to share what they think is the demise of an artist versus rush to see how they can help. Or even if the artist is asking for help, even if it's just retweeting the restaurant that he is doing this work for, this fundraising for. I mean, a little goes a long way, but people don't want to do that. Makonnen continues, the whole of everybody I've known turned their back on me and pretty much said, F you, we'll come around when you're dead and tell everyone you were a legend. Q's Jay-Z's December 4th. That is the unfortunate story that continues to repeat itself, in that you'll get an audience that has an opportunity to do something now to support the artist, not just their music, but to support them in their endeavors. If that artist gave you any kind of experience that enhanced your life in the moment or the window of time that they did, there's a way to give back. There's a way to reciprocate that. There's a way to return that favor. And it seems like if you're not hot for not just folks in the industry, but fans, sometimes they don't see a reason to support what you have going on. So you gotta do it yourself. It says, so Makonnen continues to hustle. Cannabis sales middleman deals for local businesses, moving jobs. The only thing that really makes me happy is when I can help somebody else. I'm not embarrassed by any of it. This is survival. That's real life. Shout out to that, man.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth.
By any means necessary. Shout out to him. Because I think what happens to a lot of people, man, they get away from this industry of selfish people. And although they feel justified in it, it just turns them into selfish shells of themselves because of what the industry did to them. And instead of trying to help others that may be going down that same path by giving a warning of things to look out for, they completely just, wash their hands of it and say, you deserve it if you're going after it. But it's dope to see him use his platform, use his history that has obviously reached a lot of people through his art. It's dope to see him leverage that to help people on a local basis in Portland. He's candid about, Brian Z says, he's candid about being overlooked, copied, and ignored by peers, but he still feels a responsibility to younger artists. He says, I don't want the next group to give up or feel scared to be themselves. I want to show there's another way. So no, the viral clip isn't about an artist falling off, Brian Z says. It showcases a man who cares deeply about his community and an artist at heart, doing whatever it takes to keep the lights on. There's a good lesson here about making assumptions off of 30 seconds of video. Now, whether the internet will listen or not, that's up to the internet. But I think it's important that, folks like myself and especially Brian Z amplify the real story, because I think there's an audience that is tired of falling for the viral brain rot version of the story. There's something deeper here at the surface, and I commend him. I don't know if that was the plan, but it surely was the risk of sharing that story in that kitchen. It was a risk of people all over the world running assumptions about where his life is at, and criticizing him for, I've seen people in there talking about, this is why we got to learn about financial literacy, and pushing their agendas to push their free PDFs to join their coaching, using the opportunity, using the man without knowing the full scope of things. This is somebody who has sacrificed themselves to better the situation in their community that serves artists. I think that's dope. 30 seconds does not tell the whole story, yet and still people will always find a way to tell their own through it. He says, Makonnen asked me about to make it clear he isn't asking for sympathy, but Burn Money, the studio, does need our support to rebuild after the fire. If you want to help the Portland community he calls home, here's the link. And look at that. Done is done. Here you go right here, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are interested, I'll make sure that I leave that here in the description. But they've so far raised $7,000 of a $10,000 goal. They're 71% there. If you are in a position to do it, I know everything is expensive right now, and you want to support the artists and the arts in the Portland area, and his story moves you, by all means do that, because he's not stopping or waiting for somebody else to do it for him, and that is the DIYer way. Brian Z wraps this up by saying, as we wrapped up, I asked Makonnen, go ahead and send this. I asked Makonnen for his next chapter. He says, I'm not the most talented. I'm not the most anything. I just do me. If more people did that, they'd see it's not too hard to be whatever it is they want to be. Shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. Shout out to him. We can use more individuals like that say that they're artists first, to say that they're community first. We could use more artists like that, because, I think too many artists will obsess over who they were in the eyes of the public, and they don't put enough respect on who they've become or who they could be in this next chapter of their lives. I say that looking at my own circumstances, right? The beginning of my career was dedicated to being nothing but a producer for others, a producer for myself, an artist that told stories, my stories, stories of my peers, And that was all that I gave. And I gave a lot through shows, through my music. And being in this space of content, it's a very controversial decision in a lot of eyes where, there's peers of mine that feel like I should not have came to this side. I should not be doing news stories. I should be just focusing on music. And I get them. I understand them. But I do feel like this time period, this evolution in hip hop culture is asking for us to show up for the community in different ways that those before us weren't asked to show up, or maybe didn't have the opportunity to show up. I think ILoveMakonnen is doing a great job of that, especially as he carries a name that obviously means something to a lot of people who are familiar with his songs and his catalog and what he continues to do. And the way he's using his platform now, regardless of how people would try to spin these stories to try to bring light to what's going on here that affects more than himself, I think that's commendable. And I salute him for doing that. And shame on y'all for shaming anybody who needs to go get a job, especially in this economy. In this economy? I seen a video the other day that was like, this is why you can't survive in the U.S. off of $40 an hour. And he made a legitimate argument. I said, well, I'll be damned. He said, I go get, on my lunch break, he said, I go get a coffee. He said, that's like $10. He said, I go get a burger with fries. That's damn near $20. He said, that's already 20, it's already 25, 30 bucks. He said, don't let me get gas. That's already 40 bucks. He said, an hour of my time is not even worth my lunch break. Just something to think about. But man, shout out to ILoveMakonnen and everybody else that has their hands on to bring awareness to this fundraiser. Those are my thoughts though, DIYers. What do you think?